Hello there. 2026 is shaping up to be one heck of a year for members of the Star Wars fandom and the Order of the Loudly Disappointed. We're only a few months in, and we've got lots to talk about. And whether you like it or not, 2026 has the potential to change Star Wars forever. There are milestone anniversaries, new comics, more cartoons, new leadership, and the first full length feature film to hit silver screens since The Rise of Skywalker came out in 2019. Do yourself a favor and get a bag of Mantel mix and a cold Aileen Firefly or two. You're going to need the snacks and refreshments to get through this episode. Cue the intro.
New year, load and hit play, don't blink. Grab your blue milk, take a sip, don't think. From the mind of a guy who could talk all day about every tiny detail, every frame, every fade. Ken's got takes that could wake the dead. Even George Lucas might tilt his head. It's the rambling Star Wars fan. Ken's got a mic and a wild game plan. From Twin Sun song to deep cut picks. Kicking off 2026. Raise that blue milk high in your hand. Welcome back to the Rambling Star Wars Fan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rambling Star Wars Fan. I'm Ken, this show's host and an unapologetic appreciator of all things Star Wars. 2026 is chugging away, and there's a ton of stuff on the menu for us this year. Some of those things may be little appetizers for other dishes, and some of them may be simple treats for us to enjoy on their own. And I don't know how you see things, however, I'm very excited about what's headed our way this year. Since 1977, there have been feast years that were filled with lots of content and merchandise, and there have also been quiet years in Star Wars, where the new stuff arrived sporadically, if at all, and there were years where there were marathons on cable television, a few made-for-TV movies, expanded universe novels, some toys linked to the droids and Ewoks cartoons, and then not much else. There were some years when it felt like the events that took place a long, long time ago were fading into history with nothing to little to look forward to. The birth and explosion of Star Wars took place from 1977 through roughly 1987, followed by the dark times, when fans relied on magazines like Star Wars Insider and the West End role-playing games to satisfy their fix for George's Galaxy. There were also years where suddenly the galaxy felt alive and crowded again. There were new movies on the horizon, theories and rumors stacked up, trailers dropped, casting announcements lit up timelines and the faces of fans. And don't get me started thinking about all the collectibles that showed up before we ever saw a single frame on the big screen. And where does 2026 fit in? To me, it feels like it's going to be a feast year with a cornucopia overflowing with awesomeness. We've got theatrical momentum building with The Mandalorian and Grogu. The streaming era continues evolving after shows like Andor, The Book of Boba Fett, and The Mandalorian prove that Star Wars can stretch in completely different tonal directions. And I know I said it a few moments ago, and I'll say it again, there's a lot on the horizon this year. We've got video games, new comics, new novels from a bunch of different eras, new treasures in the behind the scenes book. There's a bunch of merchandise scheduled to hit shelves over the course of the next 9 months, and there's several animated shows headed our way this year as well. That is a lot of stuff. And when Star Wars gets big, so do energy levels and expectations. Feast years also feed speculation, opinions, hot takes, and in some cases, outrage. Star Wars fandom has seen this more than a few times. In 1983, fans debated the cuteness and ferocity of the Ewoks. 1999 gave us three major topic debates: the young Anakin Skywalker, midichlorians, and Jar Jar Binks, and some fans haven't recovered from the entry of that Gungan into George's universe. And I won't dip too far into the Kathleen Kennedy / Disney era of Star Wars because, as many of you know, that can be really, really messy. And some folks will line up to see the next things with as much excitement as Wookiees on the night before Life Day. Others will stand there with a checklist of things they need to see in order to be happy. And there's still a handful of others who already have a video draft declaring that Star Wars is dead, the makers don't care about the fans, and how woke Disney has become. We've already heard some of the groans and wails by influencers, bloggers, and content creators. I never would have guessed that a parody commercial during a televised sporting event that lasted less than 60 seconds would be the source of hours of belly aching uploaded on YouTube. And at the other end of the table, there were fans cheering and high-fiving each other for what that ad offered to all of us. That movie trailer might be the appetizer for 2026's feast. And speaking of 2026 as a feast year for Star Wars, let's take a closer look at some of the things that are on the menu for us. One of the things that we're going to get in early 2026 is an animated entry into the Star Wars universe. The show, Maul Shadowlord, brings us back to the time between the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels cartoons. It'll focus more on the exploits of that tattooed Dathomirian that we first met in The Phantom Menace, and it would be an understatement to say that the show looks phenomenal. It looks like it's going to take the beauty of the last few seasons of the Clone Wars and kick things up several notches. Mac Michnovich, and I apologize if I pronounce his name wrong, is the head writer. Brad Rao is the supervising director, and it has 7 executive producers in Dave Filoni, Matt M., Brad Rao, Athena Yvette Portillo, Carrie Beck, and Josh Rhimes. And I think I counted wrong. Well, anyway, I continue to be amazed with the storytelling around this character. Darth Vader had about 35 minutes of screen time in the original trilogy compared to Maul's 6 minutes, and we're getting even more about that guy this year. We're getting 10 episodes in the updated animation style from the Clone Wars. We're going to get more of Sam Witwer's incredible vocal delivery of what could arguably be considered one of the greatest badasses in all the Star Wars universe. And speaking of voices, we're going to hear more from Steve Blum, Vanessa Marshall, and David W. Collins. We'll also be getting more music from the Kiners. They were responsible for much of the music in Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels. And from what I understand, the show will take place between Season 7 of the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. We'll get to see Maul and new characters on Janix, this planet we've never been to before. From the trailers that have been put out so far, we know that there will be a couple of Jedi on the run since Order 66, and at least 2 Inquisitors. And I can't help but wonder if we'll hear or see the Emperor and or Darth Vader. After all, Maul was the Emperor's former apprentice that was discarded, and Vader was responsible for training and dispatching the Inquisitors, aka the Red Blades, to hunt down the remaining Jedi. In my mind, there's so much information to smoosh into 10 episodes, and I'm hoping that we get at least another season of Shadowlord. Even though it hasn't even come out yet, I'm hoping for more. This series will premiere on Monday, April 6th, and we'll get 2 episodes each week through Star Wars Day on May 4th. That means we'll have 5 weeks of double episoded awesomeness. We'll only have to wait a few weeks after that show is over before we slip into movie theater seats for The Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Speaking of The Mandalorian and Grogu, that movie will be the first full-length feature film in theaters since we saw The Rise of Skywalker in 2019. In the span of roughly 2,345 days, we've been introduced to new eras and galaxies in Star Wars. We've seen the reintroduction of a military mastermind, and the 2 foundlings that share the title card of this new movie have been the source of enough merchandise to choke a Purrgil. Now, I think there's a lot of pressure riding on this movie to be quote-unquote successful, and I know that will go well beyond my expected dozen viewings of it in the theaters. I'm sure that there are a couple groups out there, including the Disney leadership and investors, that are expecting a blockbuster of epic proportions. Some of the sequel trilogy movies made over $1 billion, and I would not be surprised if they're desiring the same thing from our Beskar-clad clan of 2. Some people may be wondering whether or not this movie will be able to free itself from the maelstrom of offerings that were led by Kathleen Kennedy. And sadly, some of the items that she was a champion of also became magnets of social media backlash from people who did not have nice things to say about her nor the teams who created them. I, for one, am very excited about this movie. Yes, it's true that I'm an official member of the Mando Merc, so I'm kind of biased, and I think it's going to be awesome seeing Din Djarin and Din Grogu up to some wild shenanigans on the big screen. I'm looking forward to seeing Sigourney Weaver join this movie franchise as a member of the New Republic. I think it's going to be wild seeing a live-action Zeb in action, and I'll probably whoop it up loud and proud watching Stinky the Hutt engaged in some form of gladiator combat. And please, please, please don't get me started on seeing more of Phil Tippett's stop/go motion magic, or even hearing more of Ben Burton's sounds roaring out of speakers in an IMAX theater. Some of the merchandise for this movie has already made it on the store shelves and into the hands of collectors around the world, present company included. There are Inzellan stuffies, radio-controlled AT-ATs, new electronic Grogus that blink their eyes and make dozens of sounds. Not words, though, not just yet. And there are 2 editions of Black Series action figures, 6-inch action figures. I mean, check this out. The Din Djarin one comes with new weapons. He's got a new rifle and a sword. He's got this soft cape in the back and another itty-bitty Grogu. There are 4 other figures in that wave. Colonel Ward, Sigourney Weaver's character, an AT-AT driver, an AT-RT driver, and a remnant stormtrooper. And speaking of merchandise, it's probably as good a time as any for a commercial from our friend Marcus, otherwise known as Stomp Monkey. He set up a shop of unique stuff, and we think you'd like to add some of it to your collection. Check it out. Another Star Wars offering that's on the horizon is a new racing video game. I mean, check out this trailer.
I want it back.
Oops, it looks like I got the audio and the
way
video
it
crossed.
was
Hold on a
before
second. Let me
the
see if I can
Empire
fix it.
shut it down.
Hoping I can figure this out. Hold on.
Massive engines. Lightning fast. Lives on the line. The pilots were incredible. Best of the best.
This might do
United by one beautiful dream.
your finger. Let's try that.
I want it back. The way it was before the Empire shut it down. Massive engines. Lightning fast. Lives on the line. The pilots were incredible. Best of the best. United by one beautiful dream. The galaxy needs racing!
To me, that has some of the ingredients of a great Star Wars video game. It was directed by Matt Webster, who was involved in Star Wars Battlefront. 2, it was developed by a company that was led by some of the folks behind Need for Speed and Burnout. 3, it's got different game modes, including online multiplayer, single-player campaign, and arcade. 4, there are selectable vehicle classes like skim speeders, pod racers, and speeder bikes. And 5, there are famous characters that you and I both know and love. And if you have anything bad to say about Sebulba or Bed Quadraneros, then you and I might have to scrap a little bit. I know it looks good and sounds great from the trailers that we've seen so far. I've got no idea when we'll be getting it, but we have been told that it's coming to us sometime in 2026. Keep your eyes peeled for it. Another item on the menu for 2026 is Star Wars Visions presents The Ninth Jedi. It started out as an episode in Volume 1 of Star Wars Visions in 2021, followed by another episode in Volume 3 in 2025. This will be directed by Kenji Kamiyama and created by the studio called Production IG. The makers at Disney and Lucasfilm have given this studio the chance to create a full, non canon series in their version of the Star Wars universe. And if I was going to guess, I would say that this show will pick up the story of Kara, the force sensitive daughter of Sabersmith La Zima. The last time we saw her, she had escaped the clutches of some bounty hunters through the sacrifice of a droid named Tito. So there will be a lot for us to catch up on. And we're going to have to wait until later this year to see what the galaxy has in store for her. This series has the potential to ruffle feathers of Argonian rufflebirds and some fans. On April 25th, 2014, the materials affectionately known as the Expanded Universe got rebranded Star Wars Legend, and a large number of people were saddened and or infuriated. That single name change meant that many of the stories and characters in the far-reaching corners of the Expanded Universe would not get the benefit of being Star Wars canon. And why am I bringing up this old stuff? Well, this new material is also considered non-canon, and some fans of the Expanded Universe are not fans of other non-canon materials being made. I mean, in the words of Kylo Ren, they're still holding on and not willing to accept what's being gifted to them in the present. But we'll see what happens with the Ninth Jedi. One part of the Star Wars juggernaut that has been churning things out year after year after year for our enjoyment is their publishing efforts. From comics to novels to behind the scenes gems, there will be bunches of printed Star Wars material for us to enjoy this year. In fact, I have a few examples of them right here. In February of 2026, a Jar Jar Binks comic was published that was co-written by Ahmed Best. Yes, that Ahmed Best, the one who brought Jar Jar Binks to life with his motion capture work. This one-shot comic brings Jar Jar Binks back together with Keller and Beck, and you might remember that name from the Jedi Temple Challenge that showed up on YouTube a few years ago, or more recently as the Jedi that was responsible for saving Grogu from Order 66. One of the behind-the-scenes books that we were gifted with in 2026 is this one right here. This is The Art of the Acolyte. It was written by Kristen Baver, and it is filled with tons of information about that show with glorious bits of artwork, including some great concepts for that incredible Wookiee Jedi, Kelnaka, and some, if I had to describe it, I'd say somewhat creepy looking concepts for the character known as Kymir, or the Stranger. I mean, just check out some of these drawings that are right here in this book. On page 155, you're gifted with something like that might, fill your dreams. Sadly, though, in 2026, we're going to see the end of an era of part of Star Wars publishing. Yes, Star Wars Insider will be printing its last issue. In May of 2026, we're going to get issue 237 of Star Wars Insider. This isn't that issue, hasn't come out yet, but this is just an example of the magazine. That magazine first came out in 1987 as part of the Lucasfilm Fan Club. It was the official magazine of the Lucasfilm Fan Club, and it was renamed in 1999 to Star Wars Insider. I truly hope something else comes out in its place, because over the years I've loved reading the articles, viewing the pictures, the behind the scenes stuff, and one of the things I've appreciated the most are the contributions from fans around the world, whether it's drawings, little bits of arts and crafts, or some of the letters that have been written. In fact, our buddy Mike from the Inflatable Falcon has submitted several letters to Star Wars Insider throughout the years, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get the Hinton's autograph in one of my back issues. So in addition to all the new stuff that we have coming to us in 2026, we also have another milestone anniversary to celebrate. On December 16th, 2016, Star Wars and the larger world changed forever when the standalone film titled Rogue One blasted across movie screens. Yes, it has been almost a decade since we first learned about Jyn Erso, her parents Galen and Lyra, Cassian Andor, K2SO, Orson Krennic, Mon Mothma, and the rest of that incredible cast. And say what you want to about Kathleen Kennedy and her time as the leader of Star Wars and Lucasfilm, I think Rogue One is a fantastic example of the great things that she helped bring to us. It's amazing to me for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, this movie started out as an idea from John Knoll, the legendary Star Wars maker. I mean, he got the inspiration for the entire movie from the yellow lettered crawl at the beginning of Star Wars that showed up on screens in 1977. This movie called back to several of the original ideas from George and some of the earliest drawings that Ralph McQuarrie put together, including this idea of the Wills and Vader's castle on Mustafar. This movie brought to us makers like Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk, Tony Gilroy, and Michael Giacchino into the Star Wars universe, and we haven't seen the end to the ripples that their efforts have created. And it was also another big screen story that did not rely on space wizards with special powers at the center of the movie's attention. And that fact was furthered with 2 seasons of live action Andor that streamed on televisions on Disney Plus. It did not shy away from Muppets, puppets, droids, and aliens. Neil Scanlon and his crew brought us Two Tubes and his brother, Pow, Moroff, and Bor Gullet. So let's ring the bell loudly and proudly as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Rogue One, another Star Wars story. The next item on the menu for 2026 is not specifically related to Star Wars. However, once I say it, you will not be able to deny its importance. In September of 2026, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art will open its doors in Los Angeles, California. Taken directly from the museum's website, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art celebrates the power of visual storytelling. Founded by George Lucas and Melody Hobson, the museum explores how images move us and shape our collective memory. From Frida Kahlo's self-portrait to Norman Rockwell's scenes of everyday life to Charles White's portraits of dignity, each invites reflection, each tells a story. I mean, there's going to be pieces from Norman Rockwell and Jack Kirby, Frank Frazetta, Ralph McQuarrie, and bunches of more. That 11-acre property and a 100,000 square foot museum is definitely on my list of things I want to visit, or places I want to visit before I join with the Force. And speaking of Los Angeles, at some point in the next few months, we're going to be able to buy tickets to Star Wars Celebration 2027. It'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of A New Hope and everything else Star Wars related. And if the stars align, Heather and I will be joining the throngs of thousands of fans from around the globe at the Los Angeles Convention Center. I'm hoping that I'll get to see some of you there, and who knows, maybe I'll have a panel there. I plan on submitting at least 3 proposals once that opportunity opens up. And so this menu has been filled with glorious desserts, fantastic treats for our enjoyment. And I know that they're not everyone's favorite flavor. However, you cannot deny the importance of them. You cannot deny the creativity that went into their creation. You cannot deny the efforts and energies of hundreds, if not thousands of people, whether we're talking about the authors of the screenplays or the authors of the novels or the concept artists or the people who paint the walls or decorate the props or build the costumes. You know, Star Wars is an incredible thing, and we continue to get amazing things in that galaxy far, far away. This episode would probably be 3,720 times longer if I attempted to cover everything coming to us in the Star Wars galaxy in 2026. With that said, there's no denying that the offerings will change Star Wars forever, simply because they will exist. I mean, we'll be getting new comics, the first official romance novel, new cartoons, another video game, the first movie in theaters in almost 7 years, and a new leadership duo in Lin-Wen Brennan and Dave Filoni as co-presidents of Lucasfilm. Like it or leave it, Star Wars is forever. Thank you for joining me on another episode of The Rambling Star Wars Fan. If you haven't subscribed yet, do us both a favor and do it now. I'd love to count you in the ever-growing list of fans of this show. And until the next episode, please remember that the Force will be with you, always. Take care.
New year, loading, hit play, don't blink. Grab your blue milk, take a sip, don't think. From the mind of a guy who could talk all day about every tiny detail, every frame, every fade. Ken's got takes that could wake the dead. Even George Lucas might tilt his head. It's the rambling Star Wars fan. Ken's got a mic and a wild game plan. From Twin Suns talk to deep cut picks. Kicking off 2020 seats. Raise that blue